Hey, what's going on, good people? Welcome to Russ Can't Fly. Let's get it. So welcome to Rusty Pilot Part 2. And if you don't remember, I just did a little bit of a bounce landing coming in, and you can see I'm landing. And so now, because I'm at this smaller runway, I have to do a back taxi in order to get myself reoriented. So let's get it.
Deck traffic, Cessna 734 Alpha Uniform back taxiing for runway 1 deck.
Missed part 1, it'll flash up at the top of the screen. Check that out and then come back to this video.
So, a little bit of a bounce. Told you. That's where it shows up. That's definitely where it shows up. I was on the landing.
And the two places where you're being rusty will show up. The takeoff, which is very important, and the landing, which is extremely important. And although it wasn't horrible, you saw that my pattern wasn't tight at all. When I went to turn final or towards the runway, you see that I was off.
And deck traffic, Cessna 734 Alpha Uniform, clear of runway 1, taxiing back to runway 1, deck traffic.
For the most part, I did okay, but you know, that pattern showed why the landing wasn't good. I've always heard the mantra, a good landing starts with a good pattern. Well, my pattern was a little off, especially that final turn to the runway. You can see that was wide. That throws off a whole lot of things, and so I had a little bit of a bounce. Now, it was nothing like what I used to have back in the day. And if you're curious about some of my landing struggles back in the day, I'll pop a video up there from like one of my flight videos where I was still getting flight instruction. But you know, so it wasn't that bad, but I gotten pretty good at landing, and so I knew that that bounce was somewhat uncharacteristic. So definitely the Russ shows up, and you can see this is only after a couple weeks. So you start talking about a couple months, a year, multiple years, that could mean significant deterioration of skills.
Deck traffic, Cessna 734 Alpha Uniform, holding short of runway 1, waiting for landing traffic, deck.
FX Fly, we're just about turning final right now.
Got you in sight.
One of the things that was crucial about making sure I was knocking the dust off and not being rusty was the communication piece. Deck usually is pretty abandoned. Like a lot of people will land there to get fuel because there's cheap fuel there, but there was a lot of traffic in the area and a lot of people doing some interesting things like touch and goes and things like that. So communication is absolutely key. And something that, you know, I didn't think that I needed to be concerned about in terms of like losing that skill, but yeah, that was definitely key.
Alright, flaps are up. Extra full rich. Tanks on both. Trim set for takeoff. Carb heat is off.
And as you can see, I keep repeating myself because I want to make sure my procedure is tight.
Alright, flaps up. Mixture full rich. Carb heat off. Tanks on both. Trim set for takeoff. Have 118925.
And once I got on my frequencies, I was just waiting for traffic to back taxi, just like I did, because there's just one strip and there's not a taxiway. So just waiting for the traffic to back taxi and I'll be on my way.
Deck traffic, Cessna 734 Alpha Uniform departing one-way 101 out to the southeast deck. Alright, nobody coming on final. He's clear of the runway. Flaps are up, mixture full rich, carb heat is off.
Wash, rinse, repeat.
Alright, heels to the floor, full power. Alright, engine instruments in the green, oil temp, oil pressure, suction, all looks good. Airspeed is alive. And she's ready to fly. Something about that wheel shimmy.
Now, if you remember when I took off from Doylestown in part 1 of the video, and just in case you missed that one, I'll flash it up there again. So you can see that takeoff and the real bad real shimmy that I experienced on that takeoff. But you can see it showed up again, and I was a little lighter on the controls. And so what's interesting is that, you know, maybe there was something going on with the front landing gear. I did a pre-flight and I didn't see anything, and I always check the linkages, but something was up for some reason. So hey, if you know anything about real shimmies, leave something down in the comments.
Deck traffic, right crosswind turn out to the southeast, last call deck.
Now if you notice, as I was departing the pattern the deck, or actually as I was taking off, I was basically to the right of the runway as I was taking off. And you know, not terrible, but just not good technique. Remember, there were other airplanes in the area, there were other airplanes in the traffic pattern, and so to not fly kind of strictly runway heading just wasn't good technique, and you know, could have, you know, implications, you know, especially at a busier airfield. So that was something that definitely I wasn't too happy about.
All right, let's do our climb checklist. Climb. All right, so we got power, mixture is full, and turn off our landing light, and we're out. So goodbye to deck.
You can see I'm really trying to be disciplined with my checklist usage, and I noticed one thing. Anytime I have that card right there, yeah, this one right here, I seem to be a lot more consistent in my checklist usage. Any airplane or any 172 that doesn't have that, I tend to be a little less disciplined in my checklist usage. It's just weird. So something about that card. So one thing I do know is, like, whatever airplane I do eventually get, I'm definitely going to have my own card for it, because that seems to just work better for me. Or maybe I'll do it on ForeFlight. I don't know. But the card seems to work best for me.
All right. Cruiser out. And yes, I keep going back to so mixture, power, and instruments. So let's do, we got my power set. All right, just doing my mixture.
And I don't know about anybody else, but when I'm doing that mixture, or I'm basically leaning it out, I'm real gentle, because you know, I've leaned out the mixture too much when I'm taxiing after starting the engine, and it's almost cut off. And I gotta tell you, if that engine even threatened to cut off and I'm in the air, I probably would freak out a little bit. Now, of course, if it did cut off, I would, you know, basically go to best glide, you know, mixture full rich, you know, basically just turn the key and turn the engine back on. But I gotta tell you, that's not something I really want to do.
So you hear all this noise? This is all the people who are flying today, all this traffic. People are stepping on each other. And this particular frequency, that particular frequency, there's a lot of different airports on it, so people are stepping all over each other. Okay, so you see I got Rusty bounced off of that, you know, that landing. I was gonna go around, but I was able to coordinate. The bounce wasn't too hard, but it was enough to, I was like right there, but then I was able to do a little bit of power, coordinate, and it stayed coordinated, so I was able to bring it down, stall horn, and got her down nicely. So that's why flying is one of those things where you gotta keep doing it, or else, you know, definitely stuff will show up. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, so I think I got some time. Gonna fly the wings. All right, so just want to get myself situated here. Now, one of the things I gotta really be careful is that TFR.
Just by way of reminder, a TFR is a temporary flight restriction. They usually show up when Biden is in Delaware. You go into that, you get a military escort, and your day gets really bad really quickly.
So definitely something I need to be mindful of. So I see a couple planes coming in. I gotta be paying attention to traffic. So we are cooking. Going back east. I am doing 120 knots ground speed. Woo! We cooking, baby. We cooking. So yeah, it seems like every time I fly to the west, I'm always in some sort of headwind. So, And but we always cook going back, which is interesting because that's where you gotta like really pay some attention. All right, so I saw traffic on the fourth flight, my iPad, and I was able to pick them up.
And this is not a paid promotion for either of these products, but I gotta tell you, ForeFlight, Garmin Pilot, any of those like electronic flight bag apps, fantastic. And get yourself a Sentry or something like that, an ADS-B in. It is definitely very helpful for situational awareness.
Maybe he was on an instrument flight, because it looks like he was only 100 feet above, that I would have put him at, oh no, yeah, I don't know, that's weird, 1,000 feet above. Oh yeah, so that makes sense. Alright, so be careful. I think I'm gonna go on the other side. I'm not trying to mess with that TFR at all. Give that a nice wide berth. Alright, so making my way back home to Wingsfield. Gonna land there, taxi back, and then head on to Doylestown. And, you know, feel like I've shaken the dust off. See if I can make this a better landing at Wings. Oh my gosh, I tell you. So if you look right there in the front, so see the smoke from the cooling towers? To the left of that is Pottstown, or Heritage Field actually. If you go back to some of my older videos, those are some of the first like landings I did outside of Wingsfield, and it was like scary. I'm like, I'm not at my home airport, and I was freaking out, but it was great. Such an amazing journey. Anyway, so I'm just like paying attention to this TFR, not trying to mess that up. Now you can hear there's a lot of traffic at Wings, so if there's too many planes there, and because I'm a little rusty, I may defer and just go ahead and bounce to Doylestown. So I'm gonna see how it plays out. But yeah, it's there's a lot of people over there.
This issue actually came up in another YouTube video that I saw, and I can't remember the YouTube channel, or else I would definitely recommended you watch this video. But it was interesting because this pilot was coming into a busy airport as well, and as part of an aeronautical decision-making process, he was trying to discern whether or not he really wanted to go into that field given all the planes that were in the pattern. And so I remembered that video as I was flying the Wings, and I heard all of these folks, you know, coming into the pattern and that kind of stuff. So it's interesting. Bottom line is, there may be times where you go into an uncontrolled airport and there's a lot of traffic, and you know, as part of good ADM, it may be one of those situations where you bail. And so that was definitely a calculation that I was making, especially given the fact that hadn't been on the controls in a while.
Wings traffic, Cessna 734 Alpha Uniform, about 10 miles northwest of the field, inbound from runway 24 Wings. Alright, so descent checklist, mixture enriching, fuels on both carpet, I have that on, and got the ATIS AWAS. I had to go down for that Bravo shell. Alright, let's do our pre-landing.
Wings traffic, Cherokee 340, turning base 24 Wings.
Landing lights. Wings traffic, Cessna 734 Alpha Uniform, about 5 miles northwest of the field, inbound for runway 24. Be looking for traffic, Wings.
Wings traffic, Cherokee 340, turning final 24 Wings.
Alright, pre-landing.
Runway 32, moment.
Mixtures. Seatbelt, mixture, specifier, carpet is on, fuel's on both. Flaps as required.
Downwind 32, moment.
Wings traffic, Cessna 734 Alpha Uniform, 5 miles north of the field, going to be overflying the field for left downwind for runway 24 Wings. Wings traffic, Cessna 734 Alpha Uniform, crossing midfield, going to enter the downwind, looking for traffic, going to go behind them for runway 24 Wings.
Remember, I was getting ready to enter the pattern, but I was still ready to bail if I couldn't find traffic or if I wasn't comfortable. So I just kept looking around, and I was letting them know that I was looking for them. But you know, I was going to be entering the downwind pretty soon, so I needed to figure out where I was and what was happening.
And Wingsfield, Cessna 734 Alpha Uniform, crossing over midfield for left downwind. I've got the downwind traffic in sight. I'll be number 2 for runway 24 wings.
Since I had the traffic in sight and I knew the sequencing and I knew that I was number 2 for the runway and I had the other airplane in front of me that was number 1 in sight, I'm good to go. So my aeronautical decision making at this point is I'm good to go. I'm gonna watch them land, gonna configure when I get a beam the other airplane, all of that good stuff. So good to go, let's land.
And wings traffic, Cessna 734 Alpha Uniform, turning left downwind, number 2 behind the Cherokee wings. Alright, first notch of flaps.
Wings traffic, Cherokee 340, turning final, 24 wings.
Cherokee that you just heard called, Cherokee turning final, that's who I'm behind.
Wings traffic, Cessna 734 Alpha Uniform, turning left base, runway 24 wings.
Wings traffic, Cherokee 340, clear runway 24, taxiing back to 24 wings.
And wings traffic, Cessna 734 Alpha Uniform, turning final for runway 24 wings. Alright, 30 degrees of flaps.
Okay, so I'm on final, 30 degrees of flaps, it's coming on in. Alright, so let's see what this landing looks like. You know the drill. Cue the music.
A little fast. So, I've made it to wings, stop number 2 of 3. So I'm going to be taxiing back. As you can see, there's some planes in front of me. This guy doing some practice. He's been doing loops in the pattern. And, oh, do I remember those days. Kind of miss them. Miss flying with Manish. But glad I get to do this. So, alright, so that's who just called. That Cherokee right there. So when you heard that on the radio, he's getting ready to take off, and he's a student. I can tell because anytime you hear staying in the pattern, that means they're basically doing loops, and that's how you get your practice in. That's how you practice your takeoffs, you practice your landings. And so, like I said, I'll throw one of my videos up there. You'll see it pop up, and of one of my practices, and you'll see just loops in the pattern.
Yeah, if you want to see me do some of my flight training before I got my license, of course, this is where I did my training here at Wingsfield. This is where it made me a licensed pilot, so I will always have it. It'll always be near and dear to my heart. So since this video is getting a little long, I'm going to go ahead and, shut it down. And I want to thank you for watching this series of Rusty Pilot. And as you can see, as I flew, I got, felt a little bit better, got a little bit better. That second landing was good. And the final one at Doylestown wasn't too bad either. So, but I figured I'd just make this a 2-video series. And thank you for watching. So, Russ Kid, Russ can fly. Not so rusty. Let's get it. I'm out. Peace.